Hey guys, this is Subhash S. Mishra, your test coach. Today we will see top 10 interview questions for API testing. If you are very new to API testing and you have an interview scheduled and you have very less time to prepare for the interview, then these questions will definitely help you to crack the interview. If you have sufficient time, then I will recommend you to go through my tutorial videos first, then understand all the basics and then prepare for the interview questions. So today we will discuss mainly top 10 manual API testing questions which people ask in interviews. The first question is, what is API testing? When you say you have worked on API testing, first thing people ask is, what is API or what is API testing? So you can answer it by explaining starting from the API. Like, API stands for an application programming interface. It is a set of routines, protocols, and tools for building software applications. API acts as an interface between two software applications and allows the two software applications to communicate with each other. API is a collection of software functions that can be executed by another software program. So, testing these software functions is known as API testing. In API testing, you mainly focus on business logic layer of the software architecture. By API testing, we can confirm our APIs are working as expected in terms of functionality, reliability, performance, and security of an application. So that's good enough to explain what is API testing. We'll move to the next one. How API testing is different from unit testing? This is again a very common questions most of the interviewers ask. So unit testing is performed by dev team, where API testing is performed by QA members. Unit testing is performed before build given to the QA team. API testing is performed after the build is ready for testing. So once unit testing is done, your build is deployed, then you perform API testing, right? A developer can access the source code, and source code is involved in unit testing. Usually QA has no access to the source code and source code is not involved in API testing. Basic functionalities are tested in unit testing, whereas all functionalities are tested part of API testing. Basic things are tested in unit testing, wherein API testing we verify functionality, reliability, performance, and security of an application. Testing scope is limited in unit testing, where you will see in API it is broad. Unit testing is part of white box testing, API testing is part of black box testing. Okay, we'll move to the next one. Again, this question also lot of people ask, what is difference between SOAP and REST? So SOAP stands for Simple Object Access Protocol. SOAP is a protocol through which two computers communicate by sharing XML document. It was designed with a specification. It includes a visual file which has the required information on what the web service does in addition to the location of the web service. SOAP cannot make use of REST, since SOAP is a protocol and REST is an architectural pattern. SOAP supports only XML format. SOAP doesn't support caching, and SOAP is slower than REST. REST is known as representational state transfer. REST is a service architecture and designed for network based software architecture. It is like a design pattern to create an API. REST can make use of SOAP as a underlying protocol for web services because in the end it is just an architectural pattern. REST supports different data formats like plain text, HTML, XML, JSON, but the most preferred format for transferring data is JSON. REST supports caching and REST is faster than SOAP. Fine, we'll move to the next one. What are the common tests performed on APIs? So, when you perform API testing, people definitely expect you to explain what are those testing you do. So, we validate API response is based on inputs given on request body. All the expected fields should be displayed in the response. For example, we are creating a new user and in our request body we have given first name as Subhasis. So in response same first name is showing or not. So first name is showing as Subhasis in the response or not, that you need to validate. Okay. Verify the status code and error message in case of negative scenarios. We'll take the same scenario. We are creating a new user and for example we are giving mobile number of that user and that mobile number we are providing less than 10 digits. So our API should give us an error telling that mobile number should be more than 10 digit and the status code should be 400 bad request. We need to validate these status code and error messages also. We need to verify the database is updated properly based on API functionality. So again when we are creating a user through a post API, we need to validate all the fields like first name, last name, mobile number, email, user ID, everything is getting updated properly in database. We need to verify if API needs to trigger some other event or need to call another API, those things are really happening or not. So if any other event or scheduler needs to be executed after your API execution, you should verify that. We should verify how API is authenticated. We should verify the response time of the API to check the performance. How much time the API is taking to respond. So it will help you to understand the API performance. So those are the main tests we perform in API testing. We'll move to the next one. What are the benefits of API testing? So definitely people will expect whenever you are doing API testing, what are those benefits you are getting? First thing is we test for core functionality. The major advantage of API testing is access to the application without an user interface. Testing the core code level functionality of the application provides an early evaluation of its overall build strength before running GUI tests. This helps expose the small errors that can become larger problems during GUI testing. API testing helps in earlier testing. So once the logic is defined or once the logic is designed, test can be built to validate the correctness in response and data. We don't have to wait for various teams to finish their work or for full applications to be built. Test cases here can be isolated and ready to build immediately. It gives a faster and better test coverage. API testing is time effective if you compare with GUI testing. API test automation requires less code, so it can provide a faster and better test coverage. API testing helps us to reduce the testing cost. With API testing, we can find minor bugs before the GUI testing. These minor bugs can be very big during GUI testing. So, finding those bugs in the early stage during API testing will be cost effective to the company and reduce risk as well. Faster time to resolution. When API tests fail, we know exactly where our system broke and where the defect can be found. This can help reducing time for triaging bugs between builds, integrations, and even with different team members. Then, quick automation in API testing. API test automation requires less code comparatively GUI automation testing. Uh, so that provides faster test results and better test coverage in less time. So these are the main benefits of API testing. We'll move to the next question. What are the main challenges faced in API testing? So when you say you have worked on API testing, people definitely expect you to explain what are the major challenges you face during API testing. So it is very practical question, right? Understanding the API and providing input values in the request body is difficult job as GUI is not available. Selecting proper parameters and its combinations is also difficult. Proper sequencing of call is required as this may lead to inadequate coverage in testing. Response validation is difficult when it is too big. So, if it is a big response and we need to validate each field manually, it is a very difficult job and chance of missing defect is high. API documentation. So, API documentation should be proper as we will not have any UI, we should have proper endpoint, parameters, resources, payload. If anything not documented properly, it's difficult to start testing. Then access to DB. If you do not have access to database, verifying response is again difficult as we need to compare data present in DB and data stored in API response. Then only you can compare the result and come to the conclusion whether your test case is passing or failing. So sometime in don't get access to DB, then it is difficult. So these are the main challenges people face in API testing. So again, next question is some of the commonly used HTTP methods. I hope you are familiar with all these methods. First is our CRUD operations like get, it used to retrieve data from a server. Post used to add data to an existing file or resource in a server. In my previous tutorial, if you will see, we used to create a user, so there we use post method, and if we want to fetch the details of it, we use get method. Then put is to update an existing file or resource in a server. For example, you created one user and you want to update his mobile number, So you can use put method to update mobile number for that user. Then delete, used to delete data from a server. You can, if you want to delete that user, you can go ahead and use delete method to delete that user. Then patch, patch is used for partial update of a resource. If you want to update any specific field, then patch can be used. Options, used to describe the communication options for the target resource. Then you have head, it asks for response which is identical to get requests but without the response body. Okay, we'll move to the next one. API documentation. People expect you to understand about API documentation. What is API documentation? So, API documentation is a technical content deliverable containing instructions about how to effectively use and integrate with an API. Basically, it tells API consumers how to use the API. It saves lot of support time, also cost. Great API documentation includes many things like a quick start guide, tutorials, and interactive documentation so developers can try out API calls. There are many documentation tools also available like Javadoc. Then name some tools used for API testing. Again, a practical question. So, what are the tools you use? So, I hope you understand Postman, SoapUI, Rest Assured, JMeter, Catalan Studio, Curl. So, all these tools are used for API testing. If you want to learn about Postman in detail, you can go to my previous videos and check it out about Postman, and also we have discussed about Rest Assured. What are the different status code and how they are used? So there are lot of HTTP status codes. Here I have given a few important ones. So I have given few from 200 series and then 400 and 500. You can go through all of them. I can explain you a few like 200 OK. So whenever you are uh, updating something, you are updating mobile number, in that time you are getting 200 OK. So your request is OK, it's updated. So in that case you can it's we get 200 OK. 201 created, when you created a new user, you used the post method. In that time your request is completed and a new resource is created. In that time we get 201 created. Then 202 accepted, the request is accepted for processing, but the processing is not yet completed. So in that time we get 202 accepted. Then 400 bad request, the server didn't understand the request, or if there is any validation. For example, we are talking about that mobile number. Whenever we are giving a mobile number which length is less than 10 digits, so there is a validation because that is not a proper mobile number. So in that case we get 400 bad request and a proper error message. 401 unauthorized, the requested page needs a username and password. If it is not authorized properly, if you have not given proper username and password. 403 forbidden, access is forbidden to that requested page. You don't have access to uh, use that content. Then 404 not found, the server cannot find the requested page, whatever you are looking for, it is not there. Then 500 internal server error, the request was not completed, the server met an unexpected condition, which is for example not handled in your code, and you get exception as for 500 internal server error. Then 501 not implemented, whatever you are requesting for, it is not implemented, it is not yet developed. In that case you get 501 not implemented. 502 bad gateway, the request was not completed, the server received an invalid response from the upstream server. Then 503 service unavailable. The request was not completed, the server is temporarily overloading or server is down. If your server is down and you are trying to use that API, in that time you get 503 service unavailable. Then 504 gateway timeout. So it's like, what is the total time taking for your API? If it is taking too much time and it is exceeding that time, in that case you get 504 gateway timeout. Thank you so much. Thank you. Please like, share and subscribe my channel.